की जय। नव गौरवरं नव पुष्पसरं नव भावधरं नव लास्यपरम् नवहास्यकरं नव हेमवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं नव गौरवरं नव पुष्पसरं नव भावधरं नवहास्यपरं नवहास्यकरं नव हेमवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं नव प्रेमयुतं नव नीतसुचं नव वेशकृतं नव प्रेमरसं नवधाविलसा शुभप्रेममयं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं हरिभक्तिपरं हरि नामधरं करजाप्यकरं हरि नामपरं सतनयने सततं प्रणयाश्रुधरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं 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 सततं जनता भव तापहरं परमार्थपरायण लोकगतिं नमलेहकरं जगत्तापहरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं जभक्तिकरं प्रिय चारुतरं नटनार्तननागरराजकुलं कुलकामिनी मानसलास्यकरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चित्सुतगौरवरं करतालबलं कलकण्ठरवं मृदुवाद्यसुवीनिकयामधुरम् निजभक्तिगुणावृतनाट्यकरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरम् युगाधर्मयुतं पुनर्नन्दसुतं धरणीसुचित्रं भवभावोचितं तनुध्यानचितं निजवासयुतं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरम् प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरम् अरुणं नयनं चरणं वसनं वदने स्कलितं स्वकनामधरं कुरुते सुसंजगता जीवनं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरम् हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरं प्रणमामि सच्चिदानन्दगौरवरम् हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्णा। नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर रचित श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे। तुम बिना के दयालु जगत संसारे। पतित पावन हेतु तव अवतार, पतित पावन हेतु तव अवतार, मौसम पतिता प्रभु ना पाइबे आर, मौसम पतिता प्रभु ना पाइबे आर। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे, हा हा प्रभु नित्यानंदा प्रेमानंदा सुखी, आहा प्रभु नित्यानंदा प्रेमानंदा सुखी, कृपा बलोकन करो आमी बोरो दुखी, कृपा बलोकन करो आमी बोरो दुखी। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे, दया करो सीतापति अद्वैत गोसाई, दया करो सीतापति अद्वैत गोसाई, तव कृपा बुले पहाय चैतन्य निताय, तव कृपा बोले पहाय चैतन्य निताय, हा हा स्वरूप सनातन रूप रघुनाथ, हा हा स्वरूप सनातन रूप रघुनाथ, भट्ट जुगा श्री जीवः प्रभु लोकनाथ, भट्ट जुगा श्री जीवः प्रभु लोकनाथ, श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे, दया करो श्री आचार्य प्रभु श्रीनिवास, दया करो श्री आचार्य प्रभु श्रीनिवास, रामचंद्र संगा मागे नरोत्तम दास, रामचंद्र संगा मागे नरोत्तम दास, श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे, चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे। हरे कृष्ण।
अनिके भजन टाइम स्लॉट सर हृदय हृदय कोणी म्हणताय कॅरी ऑन.
हरे कृष्ण। बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विधि पार्थ सनातनं बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम्. O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Hriday. Hare Krishna. Thank you. किरण कृष्ण प्रभु तुमकाय मस्त धन्यवाद आसा. अश्विनी तुमकाय मस्त धन्यवाद आसा. आयचे सेशनान तू बारी लायक जावन गौरांग महाप्रभूला कीर्तन म्हणलास तुम्ही. आजी आमकां बारी स्पेशल सेशन महिने एक पण आमगेले स्पेशल सेशन असता. त्या स्पेशल सेशनान तू भायर तुकून आशिल्ले स्पीकर्स येता आसाची. आयचे सेशन इंग्लिशांत आसता जाल्यार ताजे अर्थ मागीर ट्रान्सलेशन हिज ग्रेस विप्रसुदामा प्रभुजी कोंकणीन दिता आसाची. आता प्रभू नेवचिताई किरण कृष्ण प्रभू आनी एक भजन म्हणटा. ताजे नंतर आमकां भगवद्गीते श्लोकांत वचया. हरे कृष्णा. किरण प्रभू over to you.
Yes, प्रभू. हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare। तेरे नाम संकीर्तन की जय, प्रभुपाद की जय।
हरे कृष्णा किरण प्रभू, मस्त मस्त धन्यवाद तुमका इतले लायक जावनो कीर्तन म्हणाले का। हरी बोल। आता आमका चरडवा बघेना भगवद्गीतेचे श्लोक ऐकूचे प्रयत्न करूया। आता या ऑर्डर वता असा हृदय कामत, रूही नायक, आकाश नायक, तनय कामत, कनिका भट्ट, प्रथम नायक। तुम्ही रेडी असायची पुरा?
वही
हरी बोल। स्टार्ट करूया त्या कल्याणाची। चंद कोण म्हणायची?
हरे कृष्ण। बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विधि पार्थ सनातनं, बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम्। O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men.
देवी हेषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया, मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते। This divine energy of mine, consisting of three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Bahulam janmanamante ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेव सर्वमिति समहात्मा सुदुर्लभः. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Hare Krishna.
नाहं प्रकाश सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृत मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको माम् अजम् अव्ययम्. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible.
अवजानन्ति मां मूढा मानुषं तनुमाश्रितं परं भावम् अजानन्तो मम भूतं महेश्वरम्. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme lord of all that be. Hare Krishna. Pitam asya jagato mata data pitamaha vedyam pavityam omkara samaya jurevacha.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hriday Kamat, Ruhi Naik, Akash Naik, Tanay Kamat, Kanika Bhatt आणि प्रथम नाईक तुमका मस्त धन्यवाद असा भगवद्गीता श्लोक सांगितला का आजी आणि पोरा हर ग्रेस रसवती माधवी माताजी आणि हिस ग्रेस मधुपती गोपीनाथ प्रभु लीडरशिप अंतु चरडोआर क्लास अटेंड करता असाची ताका सखी चरण सहाय करता असा तांका मस्त धन्यवाद चरडोआ का आणि पेरेंट्स आके. I would also now welcome each and everyone for the today's session. We welcome you all for the Bhagavad Purana Konkani's special session, and we have a very, very, very important guest today. It doesn't require any introduction of this famous personality in Krishna Consciousness as well as the business houses. But I would request His Grace Uttam Narsingh Prabhu from Sultanate of Oman, Muscat, to just introduce for our purification the chief guest. Over to you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So it's a great honor and privilege to introduce His Grace Rishikesh Mafatlalji and His Grace Krishna Chandra Prabhuji. We are truly blessed to have him with us, despite his busy schedule, to hear about what is the concept of happiness in Krishna consciousness. He is the chairman and chief executive of Arvind Mafatlal Group of Companies. He has an honors degree in commerce, 1975, from the Sydenham College, Mumbai. In 1993, he attended the Advanced Management Program at the Harvard Business School, USA. He is a trustee of Sri Sadguru Seva Sangh Trust and chairman of BAFE Development Research Foundation. He has been an active member of International Society for Krishna Consciousness for over 30 years. He, along with his good wife, Her Grace Radha Priya Mataji, and 3 children, have wholeheartedly adopted the Vaishnava practices in their personal lives. They are engaged in a variety of services connected, in particular, with Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Mandir ISKCON Chowpatty, where he is a trustee of the Lady North Kotte Hindu Orphanage and also chairman of the Bhaktivedanta Hospital at Mira Road. He has also been associated with the pioneering effort of tribal rehabilitation in 15 villages of Vada Taluka in Palghar district. He and his wife, Her Grace Radha Priya Mataji, along with few other senior members of the congregation of Radha Gopinath Temple, were instrumental in assisting His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj in the establishment of the consular system at the temple in late 1980s, and since then have been serving as counselor for the congregation. He has helped to streamline the goal of and activities of the Lady Northcote Hindu Orphanage. He is the chairman of the Gopal's Garden High School, which is a school that aims to provide a loving environment suited for the best possible learning experience, where children are nourished with the devotion and inspired with a will to work to become leaders of society, first-class human beings, and devotee of the Lord. He is very much involved with the establishment and activities of the Govardhan Eco Village, which aims to demonstrate the principles of self-sufficiency and localized economy to the world. In consultation with organic farming expert, all inputs and outputs are natural and only indigenous varieties of grains are grown. Instead of chemical fertilizers, the eco-village employs cow dung and natural compost. Cow urine and neem oil serve as organic pesticides, and bulls are favored over machinery for plowing. He and his wife are core team members of marriage board that is functional at the Radha Gopinath Temple, whose primary goal is to assist young congregation members in finding like-minded companions and provide guidance on harmonizing relationships. He is presently the chairman of the newly formed Temple Council at Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Temple, ISKCON Chowpatty. Without any delay, Prabhuji, all glories to you. It's over to you. Please forgive me if I am wrong somewhere. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam.
Hari Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Uttam Narsingh Prabhu. Over to you, His Grace Krishna Chandra Prabhu ji.
Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunnitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshapari. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu, it's very clear.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Uttam Narsingh Prabhu, for the much undeserved introduction, but anyway, I'm very privileged to be with all of you. Thank you so much to give me an opportunity to interact with you and serve you in any way I can. So I've been asked to speak on the concept of happiness in Krishna consciousness. It's a subject which probably for every moment in our life becomes the number one goal. Everybody anywhere in the world will be pursuing happiness. And yet we see there is so much of deterioration in the mental situations of people. The lack of happiness, the momentary happiness is considered to be, it's like clutching at straws. And on the other hand, we find more and more stress and strain, even among struggling devotees like all of us, what to speak of the outside world. So I remember a quote of His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. You may have heard that because he has these daily quotations which are amazing. So he's once, it struck me when he spoke about happiness. He said, happiness is not a product of gratification. Happiness is not a product of gratification, but a byproduct of dedication. So what struck me was that, first of all, I thought it is the main product, isn't it? Happiness is our main product. He said, no, if you pursue happiness for the sake of happiness, if that becomes a single-minded goal, you are bound for failure. You will not feel happy. And I will explain later why that is the case. But if you try to pursue some causes or some goals which are larger than yourself, and then in the pursuit of that in a dedicated way, you will find happiness. So it's a byproduct. So that changes the whole equation. I mean, that as we'll see, that the happiness actually will come on its own rather than us trying to pursue it. But if you see today, first, if you just recognize the situation that we are in today, any part of the world, in the last 30, 40 years, it's becoming increasingly more, that happiness is almost entirely equated with sensations, right? I mean, everything is like feelings. Whatever makes me feel good, that's what I will do. This is what makes me feel good. This is what I'll do. And just take one evidence of what I'm saying. If you take in Mumbai, we have this Bollywood. Now, that is the largest film industry in the entire world. And among all the professionals in the world, you find that the people who are in this entertainment industry are paid the most. Not just in Bollywood here, but it is in almost all parts of the world. There are more than doctors, for instance, who save lives, or more than any other professionals also, who may make other contributions. Now, what a society values reflects its values. That means if a society is ready to pay a huge amount of money towards entertainment, it considers entertainment so important, then clearly that reflects that's a priority. Of course, entertainment has always been part of human culture, human society. We are talking of the obsession with entertainment that is there in today's world. And that what does entertainment do? Ultimately, it gives us some feeling, a sense of some good feelings, some sensations. For instance, you see the hero bashing up the villain, or there's a family drama, hero singing songs to the heroine, or whatever. And then we see some good ending, and we feel it's a feel-good factor, we call that. So it gives us good sensation. Now we equate life, but it has become such that we equate life so much with sensations that even horror movies, which actually give us unpleasant vibes, even that, because it's a stimuli. So we wanted some stimuli, so you don't mind getting temporarily unpleasant, but you want to be shocked. You just want to have sensations. Because even even if you're scared, it is ultimately some stimuli. So stimulation at a sensory level is considered a source of pleasure. This is where today we are at. But if sensations were the source of pleasure, if that is what happiness is all about, then people who drink alcohol or take drugs should be the happiest people, because generally you have a feel, you become high, or you become you feel good for some time. But then when you come down, or when you come to the what you call the normal platform, the next day, or whenever that the high comes down, it actually goes much lower than normal. So it's a devastation. I mean, this is a no-brainer. If you talk to anyone, or if you yourself experience it, like I have for many years before joining ISKCON, it's any of the devotees in the West, you see, and yet, people are drawn towards it because they get that immediate temporary sensations. So after some time, then that they look for some other sensations, and then they become very distressed. Sometimes they become addicts, sometimes they are criminals. And even if they want to recover, it's a terrible struggle to recover. It's not easy. And doing unbelievable things to just achieve what they need, because they are hooked onto it. Addiction is a horrible thing. So, and what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Krishna says that if you become excessively attached to desires, it strips away our morality. It removes our sense of right and wrong. Krishna says that if you become bound by desires, and if you're caught, bound means if you're tied, right, then you can't move. So if you're bound with desires, then we become dedicated to fulfilling those desires. And as you and I, we all know that all desires, or most desires, in fact, do not happen. So then what happens? Then that leads to frustration and anger. So this is the cycle that goes on, that you are bound by desires because we are pursuing excessively, and then we become dedicated to fulfilling those desires, and then not having that, become angry and frustrated. I can give a few examples which I know. I mean, I can say firsthand. People intimately close to me. Almost 40 years ago, a person very closely related to me, he lost 17 lakh rupees in 3 hours in a train journey from Pune to Mumbai, just in gambling. Now, 40 years ago, 17 lakhs probably would mean at least 50 or 60 lakhs in 3 hours. So why does this happen? Because, he was desperate to get some sensation. He was very happy, winning, losing. But at the end of it, it was a disaster. If you remember, some of you who are old enough to know that 1973, when the first oil shock came, till that time, the oil was only $3-4 a barrel, and suddenly jumped to 12 and then $20. So that time it was a huge thing in 1973. So immediately a lot of money moved from the West to the Middle East. And we had many stories of, these princes going all over the world wanting to buy, and, they had the kind of money. There was one particular story of one Saudi prince who had gone to, I think there were 3 of them. They went to Monaco, Monte Carlo, if you know, this is the most famous casino in the world. And they went there and told that, look, we want to play, you don't keep any limits. Normally they have a limit. Okay, you can play a maximum to this level and 1 round. He said, no, this don't have. And secondly, the only other condition is that we don't want no closure in the night. It doesn't close at 2 or 3 in the morning. Just keep it 24 hours. So they were there for 3 consecutive days. At one time, they were winning 3 million pounds. And again, we're talking of 1973, which is 50 years ago. And they came out losing $6 million. 6 million pounds, sorry. 6 million would probably be now maybe 20 or what million. But it didn't matter to them because they're coming out, they were giving 100-pound tips to the doormen and so on. So the point is that this kind of proportion, this kind of right and wrong, this kind of pursuit of happiness, it's a frustration. You just want, then eventually the sense of responsibility, the sense of achievement, sense of doing for others starts disintegrating. There was a very close friend of mine, very nice person. He is a recovering alcoholic in the sense that he was an alcoholic, but from 1981, he has not had a drop of drink. It's almost 42 years. But when he was an alcoholic, he had once when he was so desperate, he didn't have money, that his daughter's school fees, he had used it to buy some bottle. His daughter was so young. Even today, she has difficulty forgiving him 41 years later. And he tells me that, that's the price I have to pay. Now, how many people, I know him, maybe 20, 30, 40 people know his story. They have this Alcoholics Anonymous, they have these groups which do wonderful work. But most people, so everyone, we just look at the smiling body, you see all these so-called sophisticated people with glasses and this and that, and then, they're advertising the thing. So they're titillating the senses, but actually it is, desire, it is a disaster. So because it ends in frustration, because sensations never last, it cannot last. So it ends in frustration. We think that time that it will go on and on, but it doesn't. It just has a drop. So then we want more sensations. Then that is why you have movies or entertainment with more sex, more violence. Why that? You never saw that 50 years ago. It's becoming more and more because they have to find some kind of because the sensations are superficial, they need more and more. So there's a nice analogy which Chaitanya Prabhu gives that imagine if you have a small baby, and then some relative comes. And then, as it happens, they start playing with the baby. You normally tickle the baby. So when you tickle the baby laughs, right? The baby starts laughing. So you say, is that laughter happiness? It's like an automatic reaction, right? But because if laughter is happiness, then all of us can get our own customized tickling machines, right? And then we can keep tickling and feel happy. But that's not going to happen. It can be perpetual. Then machines would keep us happy. So unfortunately, he was saying that most of today's technology, he calls it technology, because it offers us some kind of tickling or some kind of sensation. For instance, our mobile phones, we might see videos and immediately we get an update, we get a pop-up, we get some news, we get some photos, like something or the other we need. It just, it gives us some tickling sensation, it stimulates, and we want more and more. So it breaks down our determination. But sensations don't lead to pleasure. They promise pleasure, but they lead to frustration. Now, this is a very important point. Just follow this. If we keep doing what we like, we will end up disliking ourselves. If we keep doing what we like, then we end up disliking ourselves. I'm referring to, it means if you're following our senses. For instance, one may say that I like to pursue, let's say engineering. But that's a different thing. And you should do what you're good at or what you can do. But we are talking of, but there you may dedicate yourself to study something. In that pursuit, you'll be committed to following that, irrespective of sensations. Then you go up and down, whether you like it or not, you have some setbacks, you continue. So that's different. But here, when we can just follow our sensations, then we are, like for instance, eating. Some will they love eating, they'll eat anything, and then they become obese, and then they become morose, they become depressed, right? That's how come, what can I do? It's very difficult to reverse it. Or there may be some children who are having a lot of resources and means, and their family allows them, they play video games, and then when they grow up, imagine the child, he becomes a youth and he's still playing games. He becomes a little older, a young adult, and he's still playing games. And then at some point, he's going to say, what am I doing with my life? Am I wasting my life? So obviously, you can't keep pursuing that. There has to be regulation. There has to be, some barrier. Otherwise, what happens? We start losing our self-esteem, our self-respect, and then we will start disliking ourselves. And the proof of it is that the disliking ourselves is such a serious problem in the world today. The statistics say that 1 in 5 contemplate suicide. And if you take only Europe and contemplate, I mean, they have a thought of that. And in Europe, USA, 1 in 2 in their lifetime will be considering that, and 1 in 10 will actually attempt it. It's a startling statistic, but these are official statistics. So in the course of their life, so this is indicating that we are profoundly unhappy. On one side, the world tells us that through sensations, through technology around us, happiness is promised. Yeah, happiness, technology does improve in many ways. For instance, today's middle class person may be having more comforts than the kings of, say, 200 years ago. That time they used to fan them. Now we have ACs. They would take longer time to reach places. They go on horseback. Now they go on scooters or motorcycles, motorbike or cars, whatever. So there are comforts. But what happens to us is that our whole life we want to do what we like, and we want to avoid what we don't like. Now, unfortunately, the opposite happens. Most of the time, we tend to do things which we don't like in many cases because it's our duty, it's our responsibility, and if you're not trained for it, we are forced. And on the other hand, things which we don't like happen to us. So then we start lamenting. So there have been problems. Everyone has problems. And the proof is why the mental problem is considered, mental disease is considered the largest disease overcoming us in this century. This was predicted about 20 years ago. I remember the statistics were being mentioned, and I really felt that there's an exaggeration because to consider that, and these are World Health Organization statistics, saying that the 21st century will, unless things change, will have a lot of mental diseases. Depression, anxiety, and so on. But it is actually coming true. So the reasons are that in spite of so much progress, but because we are going by sensations or because we want to do what we want, and simple things have become easy to do, and then we don't want to do other than that. And also the environment around us is such that it promotes this kind of thinking because there are so many distractions for us. And we have enough problems, and the minute we want to distract, if you want to allow ourselves to be distracted, there's no end to, there is no shortage of that. So this, but then what happens that, if you're going to a hill station, people go, say, on summer holidays, they will go somewhere in a little better climate, and then we find a breath of fresh air. So it is nice, But then if you think that the person who's, there are people who stay in the hill station, they don't feel that because they've been staying their whole life. So they don't get that sensation, right? So there is a law of diminishing return. So those, if you were pursuing that, after some time, it starts going down. And we see that with everything around us. You see this, that so many things keep changing. Even our own gadgets also, we'll want to replace it, whether it's cars, whatever. So they will look for better models, because something which really excited us, after 2 or 3 years, we look back and say, well, it's not, so many people have it, some new features are there, something, new is there. So we will want to go for that. So then it comes, the question is, then where do we get pleasure? If you're saying that sensations are causing us, leading us to this kind of situation, first you need to recognize that these are the problems. And what I was saying is that it is in that state that we recognize the reality, then we can redirect or refocus. What we need to do is to actually get absorbed. If you see, there are, any times in your life, you see some of the most happy moments, cherished moments are there when we were completely into something, we were completely absorbed and involved in something bigger than ourselves, something which is outside us, something which is a greater cause, something which doesn't concern only me, and mine. Then, and if we work for someone, even for maybe starting with the family or for the others, like the mother, the mother, that example is given to us, like a 6-month-old baby. There is tremendous happiness, yes, but the physical and also mental, to that extent, stress that is also there to raise the child. Like the baby will get up anytime in the night. It's a very exhausting thing. But yet the mother feels, so it's not that everything is going as per what she needs. So there may be moments when she's totally fatigued, totally exhausted, mentally exhausted, and the child is bawling away, crying. But still, the mother will always feel very happy emotionally, because she's doing something for someone else, so her own baby. So it doesn't feel I'm doing something. It's just that it needs. I need to do it because that's necessary. Who else will do it? It's my responsibility. I have to do it. So when we look for a cause bigger than ourselves, and then we work towards that, then that absorption in a mood of contribution, that gives us a higher satisfaction. So ultimately, we're looking to see how we can contribute. And even if things are not always, going to go the way we want, even in the case of money, today the problem is happiness is not caused by making money, but by making something worthwhile out of money. See, if you just accumulate and hoard money, nobody is going to be happy, because then that kind of mentality will think that somebody will take it away, the government will take it away. They're in anxiety because they're trying to hoard it, they're trying to protect it, they're always worried. But if their concern is more, what can I do with that? Or how can I do it? Krishna has given me this, what can I do? Then there is a different kind of favor. And then there is no envy, there's no competitiveness. You accept that things will come your way, things may not come your way. But still, if you have got much more than you need, you want to do what will help in whichever way you can do it, in the community, the congregation, in the outside world, in the city, etc. So, but then those who pursue that thought that no, it is I need it for myself only, then very soon they'll find that happiness always seems to lie in things that they don't have. Have you seen that? That's generally a feeling that initially you're happy, but then if your motivation is very much, how much I can get, sooner or later, then what they have, they'll say, well, I need something, like say a new car, new house, and lots of stories. People, constantly changing, the restlessness that comes in. So that thought pattern is a problem. The mentality is a problem. It is not, the problem is not the things that we have or the things that we don't have. That is not the problem. The problem is in the mentality of thinking that I need to pursue this. So that the thought pattern makes us believe that the things we don't have is really, if I have that, my problem will be solved. If I have the next 1 crore, if I have this, or if I have that, my problem is solved. If I get this job, my problem is solved. And then Maya makes us, the mind tricks us. Once we get, supposing we get that also, we very soon will forget that we raised that question. And then something else will catch our attention and we have a problem. if you notice that the problems that you had, say, 10 years ago, some of them may have been solved. Let's say some, when you had some very happy moments and a big success, let's say. Before that, what your thinking was, and then when you got that success, at that time, you would feel that it's a great relief. Yes, it's a great relief. But if our thought was that now my problem will be solved, it doesn't happen. A year or 2 years later, something else is going to catch our mind. Maybe 6 months later, then our mind is occupied by some other problem. So the mentality is that if you don't understand where these problems come from, what our purpose is, and where happiness really lies, then we will get caught up in this insatiable desire, unsatisfied desire, and it just can't be satisfied. And then there'll be perpetual dissatisfaction. We'll always be craving for more and more, and no matter how much we have. And this is, it is not, this is something which, I can say because I do move in that society, and I can tell you with firm conviction. It's a no-brainer to see how people with, they have so much, but it's just a matter that even if they have more, the dissatisfaction that it remains, and then the effort to make people feel that they're happy, that causes even more stress. You see that everywhere, so we only see the externals, but if you know people who have actually been in the internal, what they're actually going through, and then through them, if you hear about the others, they're actually having more causes more problems unless the mentality, the consciousness, and the association helps us. So rather than accumulating money, if you have money, then if you are spending it with the right consciousness, then in the mood of service, that can give us a higher fulfillment. And the highest fulfillment, of course, is service to God, and through God, the service is to all living beings. So if we have that faith that Krishna gives us more than what we deserve, and Krishna gives us what we really need, we may not know what we need. So it may be that there is an anxiety. It may be that we have a problem. But if you have faith in Krishna, Krishna has given that for a purpose. Krishna has caused that situation. Supposing it is a person who is harming us, or let's say a neighbor, or a competitor or something. But Krishna is also in their heart. And Krishna, and if you don't have faith that Krishna has seen what we do, that okay, we are chanting, we are trying to, if we are sincere in that, and if you have faith in Krishna, Krishna recognizes that. But then we must also have that faith that let him do his job. We will do our job unless we feel that we can do a better job than God. If we think that, then there's no argument. But if we have faith in God, then Krishna will do what is best for us. Now, what is best for us according to Krishna may not be what is best for us according to us. According to us, we have ABC. If this thing happens, this is the best. But Krishna has his own ways. Some things which may happen, some things actually become worse temporarily. But eventually, in our own lifetime, oftentimes we look back and say that because of that problem, we came to ISKCON, or we got connected to a pious movement, Krishna Consciousness. Or, there are so many, if you're objective, so many benefits that could come, but irrespective of that faith that Krishna will do what is best for us, he will protect our nurture our spiritual feelings. But this contribution factor also depends on the consciousness, because it can also be, someone can argue that, even the terrorists, for instance, they're also serving for a higher cause, isn't it? They're willing to give up their life. They'll go with the suicide, the carriers. They just put a bomb on themselves and go and explore. So is that a contribution? But that is in the mode of ignorance. So that is destructive. So therefore, the mode of ignorance is the worst. And then, mode of passion would be where we have a tendency to control. So while we are giving, but we also want to control things, what is happening. It's very much in the mode of passion that we just can't let go. While the act may be good, but we are still wanting to control things, as an example. So therefore, mode of goodness is definitely better. But mode of goodness is also not complete. It's not complete knowledge, because in the mode of goodness also, if you don't recognize that many things we are not in control of. For instance, many people, most people in the world, those who are educated, even among devotees, they will feel that if only these people were educated, the problem will be solved. But that's not the problem, because so many problems are caused by people who are educated also. So it's a matter of, it's not just a matter of education, not education. I mean academic education. So while there is merit in the academic education, it is not a matter of, it's not that is the summum bonum. It's something which has to be taken in the totality, that yes, we have so many people around us who are many of you are extremely well qualified. And then Krishna has given you that, then you pursue it in a certain way to put it to productive use. But your consciousness makes you feel that is an interim step. That means that you whatever benefits you can get, you not only include yourself and your family, of course, but you also do it for the larger family, you also do it for community. You are always looking to see what I can do. And it's not just monetary. Contribution can be in terms of our intelligence, our time. So consciousness is the key aspect. People, it does. So someone may say that person who's not educated academically, they come and serve. They want to help. That motive is very much there. That when you're looking for somebody else's happiness, it gives such a deep sense of satisfaction. And it is not to project oneself like that, but it is just that I'm employed in that kind of service. I remember two examples. Some of you may be familiar with the Pune Yatra that we used to have. We used to take devotees to our Pune house, and right up to 2009. So this was in the early days, sometime in 92, 93. That time we had about maybe 300-400 devotees, maybe 400 or 500 devotees would come. Eventually grew to almost 5,000, but this 400 devotees. So it used to be Friday evening to Sunday evening initially. So one day there was some sannyasi who had to leave early on a Sunday morning. So he was leaving by 4 o'clock in the morning to catch a bus to go to Rishikesh. So I came down with him, and it was dark, and just outside our house, portico, we had all the chappals and shoes of all the Matajis and Prabhujis, and everything was assorted and just left there. They left it there. So it was very dark. So we came with a torch, and we were trying to look for the chappals of the sannyasi. And suddenly we found a person, on the ground. So we were a little skeptical. What is he doing there? So it was a young boy who, he was actually on his hands and knees, and in the darkness, he was actually sorting out pairs of shoes. He had a very small light, and he was trying to sort out to make it easier for the others, because they were all jumbled up. So he was trying to match and just arrange it. He came at 4 in the morning. He was already in the January month. It was cold. He had worn a sweater, and he was arranging it quietly, hoping that nobody will see him, doing a good service. This is the thing. So it is such an inspiration to see that he didn't have anything to gain, but gave him so much pleasure. So it is acts like these. One person may do it, other people may benefit from that. And I'm talking about it 30 years later. It just shows how much impact it had on me. Similarly, another example in the temple hall, at Shingar Darshan, the flowers are offered for us to come and give it to the lordships. So I was standing somewhere towards the back end of the temple. So the tray comes they keep moving the tray, and they start giving the flowers. Whoever comes, they start taking the flowers. So I was standing next to a brahmachari, and we were just standing and with our hands folded and waiting. And by the time the tray came, so there was one full flower, a full rose, and there was one small petal. So in a split of a second, he just took the petal, so that there was no choice for me but to take the rose. Again, this was, I'm telling you, maybe 20 years ago, but I'll never forget it. So see, his instinctive act was that one of us had to take the rose, one had to take the petal. Now, ultimately, Krishna's eyes, it doesn't matter what size you do it, but he was intent to see that, I get to put the rose, and he took the petal immediately. And it was such a split second. It wasn't, obviously it was deep in his DNA. So I'm saying that these are the kind of acts that we see, and that we would hope that someday we can also try to see that we can, that it becomes imbibed in us. We don't have to train ourselves. We don't have to look in the mirror and keep reciting or something. No, it just becomes an urge that can I do something? And then in front of that, whether what wealth we have, if we're comfortable, whether the neighbor has maybe a bigger apartment, it ceases to worry us. So, this kind of these kind of activities where we can do something constructive, something tangible, something that is important. But what is important here for all of us is that it is there is an environment that is necessary, but also there's internal change. Because in the mode of goodness, when we look at, okay, we give the person good food, good education, person is poor, let's help him, that's nice. But if you leave it at that, doesn't solve. Where bhakti comes in, where Krishna consciousness or God consciousness comes, is that we need to internally change. Everyone has to change. Otherwise, we also have the, Radhanath Maharaj talks, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj talks about the good dog and the bad dog. So it's really like we have the mind and and Krishna. So the mind can be our worst enemy, as Bhagavad Gita says. In many times it is like that, because the mind tends to, go by the senses. But the mind also can do good things, because the mind also gives us instincts. So, for instance, you see somebody who, sometimes we see some Mataji will come in. I mean, I can say my wife, for instance, she just walks in and she just has that natural ability. Immediately, in 1 second, she'll be able to say, okay, this needs to move here, this needs to move there. She has a sense of this, aesthetics. For me, 10 times I'll come in, I wouldn't even realize it. So people have that. Somebody's good at numbers, or if he just looks at the paper, then immediately he'll feel the bunch of data, and he said, I think there's something wrong here. So this also comes from the mind. So it's not that the mind is always our enemy, but it tends to become an enemy. It works against our interest when we let it run like a wild horse. So when it goes on that path, unbridled, just going by senses, then it going by feelings and sensations, then we are letting the mind become our worst enemy. But even then, if you just think that Krishna is our best friend, he's also within our heart. So if we turn towards him, and all that we do is actually, if we are chanting 16 rounds or whatever numbers we are chanting, if we are following regulative principles, if we are following, maybe we're doing deity worship, ultimately, what is the goal? That, we try to develop loving relation with God. So if that doesn't happen finally, then that everything else is just a structure. I'm following this, my duty, I do it. In my 24 hours, 6 to 8, I do this, 8 to 9, I do this, 9 to 6, I work, I do this. And it's like mechanical. But the purpose is that with all of this, we try to see that can we turn towards Krishna, and then many times we can't, but then we're aware of it. That if only I turn to Krishna. Later on, we say, why didn't I think of Krishna? Why don't I, just because I have a problem, I go to him? But when I'm happy, am I grateful to him? So if we recognize that there is a force within us, which is also inner and outer. The outer force is, the outer transformation is of course necessary, but the inner transformation is even more. So the worst enemy and the best friend, both can be inside. And if the mind is turned towards Krishna, then the mind can also be our best friend. So then it will stop us from doing something foolish. I think probably all of us may have gone at some point in time, we may have done something which are, some stupid, and we look back and say, why did I do this? I shouldn't have done it. Something silly may happen. Now that, if it may have been the mind tricking us into something, but then if we correct it, then we, can completely change that direction at some time. So because in today's culture, the mind's impulsiveness, it is so much fed enormously by the materialism around us. That's what pollutes the mind. Like, watch this, I want to do this, I want to eat this. Instinct, I want to do this. So the same instinct can, when there's no regulation, no control, it just lets go. So therefore, if we really want to be satisfied, happy, contented, we need to reflect. We need to also let our intelligence dominate the mind. The intelligence is purified by processes we follow, by reading, by hearing, by seeing other people's examples. And then we try to incorporate and then think and deliberate that if I just hold on for a minute, if I just don't succumb, if I don't just give in, oftentimes, sometimes I'm saying from my experience that, sometimes, in the earlier days, particularly, not so much now, but still, after dinner also sometimes you're with friends and you may eat something, you have some, and then you repent. Why did I have? I didn't need it. But sometimes now I'm able to stop myself. And the next morning when I think, I say, thank God I didn't do it. So many times we then look back and say that why, thank God. So if you are able to deliberate and then slowly start, the score goes from 5 and 5 to 7, 4, 7, 3, 8 to 9, 1. That's the kind of battle that is constantly there. So if we realize that there is within us, there's an enemy and a friend, and Krishna's voice can overcome and guide us, then and not let the mind's voice become very strong. The other problem in mind is that it gives us, unrealistic expectations. See, most of our problems happen because we then start having false expectations, and these false expectations, then we start believing that, fantasizing, and unrealistic pleasures which are not going to come, and then because of that we become totally dissatisfied till we follow it. Doesn't happen, we become frustrated. So therefore, when we start looking at Krishna, we'll find two things. One is that our problems will become lesser. Why? Because externally the problem will be there, but that obsession which our mind has becomes less when we turn towards Krishna. It's like turning left or right. If you turn right, you can't, you may have a sight of the left, but you can't be, you are more right and then left, right, in your eyes. So, but if you completely turn right, then that's the best. But even if you start moving towards Krishna, assuming Krishna is on the right, you see that slowly the vision on the left starts reducing. So the same way our obsession starts reducing to some extent. And secondly, our expectations also start becoming more realistic. It'll automatically happen when you turn towards Krishna. Then what is it that will give me contentment, happiness? I have enough. We start looking at the half glass full rather than saying half glass empty. That example that we have a half glass and mind always says that, why am I, but the other person's glass is more full than mine. But then when we start looking at the good things that we've had, how did I come in contact with such glorious devotees? How did I'm getting a job, I've got a good house. There are many pluses. There'll be problems, but if you only look at the problems, we will miss it out. Gaur Gopal Prabhu gives this very nice example. You may have heard that often. He says, no, we have 32 teeth. But supposing you had, say, corn or some item or some fiber and it gets stuck in the teeth, the tongue will not rest till it keeps on and on going to that one tooth to try to take it out, right? It happens. No, it's got 31 other teeth, there's no other problem. But no, it will just happen and you keep on and on, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it bothers us. So it is something like that our mind is that restless. I want that. Why is that problem? So because we stop looking at the array of gratitude that we have and that we should be thankful for. So Prabhupada said that if we are able to just be grateful for what we have, if we realize how grateful we should be, we will be instantly Krishna conscious. He said, if we are able to understand how much grateful we should be, because we don't know the gravity of what we've got. It's not, and nothing happens by accident. How is it that we have got this? We may say, I was at a street light and someone came and gave me a Bhagavad Gita or someone gave me a pamphlet and I was curious and I went to the temple, at the first connection. Okay, but that was not an accident. Krishna planned it. He's given us this offer. Similarly, somebody took us to a satsang party. We were not interested, but then something clicked. Or then we were going through a bad phase and then you heard something or you read something. There are so many stories. Everyone has a story of how they're connected. If you look at it, we should be grateful for that, because why us? How many people, not to say that we are God's gift to mankind. Sometimes ISKCON devotees feel that they're God's gift to mankind. So I'm not saying that, but I'm saying we are fortunate. We are not great, we are fortunate. So it's not just ISKCON, it's any, those who are, have had a piety, have a control, have a dedication, have want to others. I mean, you can see there are 10 numbers or 20 numbers more who have no interest in that, around us everywhere. Or they're suffering a lot in poverty, in terms of mental difficulties, so many things. Then if we've not got that, then how come we have been, what did we do? So we look at the problem, but we don't look at so many things that are going good for us. Towards the end, I just want to mention a couple of points. That there was a survey taken out some years ago that in the 21st, they keep doing this actually, that what are the top 10 fears people have? So in the 21st century, only 2 new fears have come in. Many of them are fear of death, of course, is one like that. So 2 new fears have come in the top 10. One is the fear of terrorists, which is understandable. And the second is the fear of rejection. It was not that 20 years ago. That's become so high. Now it is this is a fear of the modern disease, that it's a very crippling fear that I'll be rejected. So when your relationship is broken, you start feeling that something's wrong with me. Something's I'm unloved, I'm unlovable, I'm useless. So you start thinking like that. So then then I've got so many flaws that nobody's going to love me. Sometimes some people start thinking like that. So this becomes a serious problem. So when we go through difficulties, of course, there's some at momentary people may have this. They face this, that someone rejects you, or someone you have a bad issue, bad relationship. But all of that, we have to remember there's one person who always loves us. That is Krishna. And that's what Krishna consciousness, that can we start thinking that Krishna always loves us, even if we have not turned towards him. He's always in our hearts, and he always cares, and he never leaves. So this is what you heard. The trick is that how can we come to a level where we are often and then later always remembering that. And that's the difference between the great personalities and the struggling sadhakas like us, that they have firm conviction that Krishna, not only Krishna is there, but Krishna loves us. So once you have that, then you feel so satisfied that I don't have this power, but somebody else has. There's a very nice analogy, weightlifting, like you have these giant, say 150 kg weight. Now just imagine if a 5-year-old boy comes and tries to lift a 150 kg weight. He comes and he's in his father's gym and he's doing that. Obviously not going to be able to do anything. But then his father comes from back, and the father does, he loves his son. So the father applies the pressure. The son doesn't know. The son thinks he's trying to pull, and the father gives the pressure from the side, and suddenly it lifts up. And then the child feels, oh, I'm lifting. But then if he looks around, he sees that actually his father is helping him. So our situation is the same. Many good things are happening. We think we are taking the credit, but Krishna is actually helping us. And if it's a difficulty or a challenge, Krishna is helping us. But only thing is, we define it as a difficulty. We define this as a success. We define this as a failure. But actually, Krishna is impartial, and Krishna is, in fact, he's partial towards his devotees in the sense that if you turn towards him, he'll help you. But he's always trying to protect us. The example is given that there was Arjun, who was immensely talented, and then he was successful. He was materially also successful eventually, because he was one of the main causes for the victory of the Pandavas. And then you have Jatayu. You know the story of Jatayu. That's a great devotee, but he was materially a failure. As a vulture, he tried to protect Sita Ji, but what did he do? He couldn't do anything. So can we say that Arjun was greater than Jatayu? That's the question. No, actually both were pure devotees. Both were, as in Krishna's eyes, both were successful fully. In fact, Jatayu had the greatest satisfaction when Lord Ram took his, perform all the rites like his father. No devotee that we know had this opportunity. So therefore, once we have that, so in this example of lifting, whether we succeed or don't succeed, Krishna may make us succeed, or Krishna may, if he feels that's better for us, we may see an immediate failure. But actually, if we have that faith, then we know that Krishna is always there to see for our happiness and our pleasure. And if we are turning towards him, he will give us the strength to understand, to have the maturity to distinguish between right and wrong, to distinguish between the what I should do, what I should avoid. Unfortunately, our greatest weakness is the unwillingness to believe that Krishna loves us. That is, mentally we agree, but to be completely, totally, so strongly feeling that Krishna really loves us, that is where we have to develop, and that's what the process of bhakti is. That as we go towards that, no matter what the situation in front of us, we turn towards him, and in that, when we are contented and satisfied, then we start looking and seeing that how can I help others? I am so fortunate. I got much more than I wanted, or much more than I deserve. Can I give to others? And in that process, then we start seeing, if we see from Krishna's eyes that we all are equal, no matter what the external situations are. caste, creed, education, gender, doesn't matter. When we are in a temple hall, we don't look to see that which state he's come from, what is his background, it doesn't matter. So it's like that. So once we come to that, then our desire to help others, desire to, that eagerness is there. There's always, people will always have some thoughts uppermost on their mind. Right? So what is the uppermost of mind? If that uppermost of the mind, if our anxiety is to help others, that anxiety will be very pleasurable because we'll constantly find ways to do it. Sometimes we may get, sometimes other ways, but we'll find it need not be monetary. It can be so many other ways. They just, if you want to help in, say, the marathon, so somebody may go and distribute books, but somebody may go and help others. The Mataji's cook for them and send prasad to the railway stations. Somebody offers his car to take the books. So many ways. So if you have a desire, you will get the opportunity, and that's where the happiness lies, in helping others. So starting with helping our family, oftentimes we may this is a fact also that sometimes among devotees, we are so happy to please Prabhupada, we are so happy to please Krishna, so we're happy to please other devotees, but we forget that our spouses, our wives and husbands, especially our wives, that they're also devotees. And then sometimes the wives will complain, say that husband say ke, oh, khana bahut acha banati hai, but never appreciated at home. So if you start seeing gratitude starts from home, a gratitude feeling that somebody has I'm talking about married relations, but it can also be children, with parents, with relatives. So we have problems, but we also see the other side that they ultimately, if you spend 20, 30, 40 years, somebody has also tolerated us as much as we may have tolerated. Now we only look at one side. So if you look at that side, then the gratitude comes, and with that gratitude, that will overflow, because it cannot contain only in the family. Because beyond that, then you want to share it with others. You're happy because you've received more than what you expected or you deserve, what you think you deserve, and that's how you start giving to others. That's how you start helping others. So the last line I would say is that Krishna's powers to heal are much greater than the external environment which can hurt us. The external environment is going to hurt, is going to happen. We'll have setbacks, we'll have problems. It's the nature of life. Otherwise, why would we? And that is Krishna's way of reminding us that this is not where we are going to pitch our tent and have a relaxed life. It's not like a beach resort, then I don't want to leave, this is my life. But this material world is not meant for that. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada's guru, said, just consider this world as a toilet. Do your job and get out. Nobody relaxes in the toilet, and nobody puts his gadda and starts reading and relaxing in the bath. No, you just finish your job and get out. So same way, just treat that this is my lifetime. What can I do? Accept the problems that come, minimize it as much as you can. And if we can't, then we find people whose association helps us. That is why association helps, because we're always with people who are much more balanced, more mature, more strong. That helps us. And in that, then we are able to pursue our services, help others, and find happiness. And then as we go along, we see, my God, life is just gone. I mean, 20 years have gone, 30 years have gone, 50 years have gone. How much time is left? We don't have much time. So that is the reality. So I think eventually then we can become what they call healing agents. If we see that we can become healing agents for others. If we have problems, and we've seen that, realization is the best teacher. And then we can, through our experience, we can hope and see that somebody doesn't make the same mistake, or somebody can see from our insight. And that way, whether it's physical, mental, financial, social, whatever way we can help, somebody or the other will always be helping. That's the meaning of congregation. That's the meaning of extending ourselves to help others. So I'll end here, and because we can have question answer if there are any comments that are there. Anyway, thank you so much for having me with you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much for such an enlightening session on the concept of happiness. Actually, Prabhuji, at the end you ended up with my wife smiling, having smile on her face, mentioning about the gratitude should start from a devotee, also from home. So she was smiling which really, really is a very, very good concept and a lesson for us that it should start at home. So you started with a very nice subject from the casino and movie to attract everyone, and went through the importance of education, balancing it. It is not just the education, material education. You have to see how you can balance it in your life and apply it for your spiritual growth. And then you mentioned about the array of gratitude with an example of teeth, which is always there for every one of us. We always tinker for such kind of temporary happiness. Even though we are into Krishna consciousness, many times our attention gets diverted mainly towards some kind of material happinesses. So I'm sure all the devotees who are here are very much clear about the concept, but still many may be having some kind of questions in their mind. You're welcome to ask the questions. Open your mic or put it on your chat box. Haribol. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, if there is, in the meantime, can I ask something which is based on your particular quote on chanting, if it's
Yes,
okay?
Prabhu, sure. Yes, of course, Prabhu, sure.
Prabhuji, you had one mentioned a very famous quote: "Chanting Hare Krishna has helped me face all the ups and downs in my life with great confidence and peace of mind." I would like to connect that particular point, which you mentioned in the today's session, mainly regarding the law of diminishing marginal utility. So in this diminishing concept, we take all the material items that it has a diminishing nature. And you explained at the end about the Krishna consciousness. So does really chanting have a diminishing capacity or something diminishing nature? Law of diminishing apply for chanting?
Ultimately, our consciousness is the most important. So if our consciousness has brought us to the level where we now understand, at least intellectually, we understand that the logic is so powerful, so strong, that Krishna is present in his name, and by it's a purifying process, and then we should experience it. Now, when we start experiencing it, when we start chanting, when you follow the procedure, it depends to how much we're willing to struggle. I'm not saying that we can be, of course, we're not Haridas Thakur who would be able to chant with full attention 300,000. But our goal, our attempt, because Krishna sees the struggle. So if we actually are struggling to chant properly, because one can go through the motions of the round, just doing everything. You can be watching a video, watching your TV, and doing it. Then we are going to find it as a real pressure, and then slowly we might give it up. So then when you're saying the law of diminishing, we might say that, well, it didn't work for me, but then we never made an attempt. Because when we are chanting, we have to fight back. We'll be tested whether we are serious enough. So those tests will come in terms of laziness, sleep, distractions. So are we countering it? If we are feeling a little tired, we start walking. And then even if we do forget sometimes that we have to hear the word, as soon as we're reminded, then we try to, it's a fight. Mind is going somewhere. So this struggle is what Krishna sees. Just like that example of in the Ramayana where that the Chipkali was trying to push the grain of sand. Quantity was nothing. One would say it's a flop. What can it do? But Lord Ram chastised Hanuman, saying that no, it's the effort that counts. Make your full effort. So even if we fail, but Krishna sees, because Arjun himself says we can't control our mind. So therefore, when we take to chanting, and if we are struggling, then that because we want to please our Guru Maharaj, please the devotees, and we are convinced that this is the process, that even if I'm not succeeding fully, the attempt to please satisfies us. And in that process, we will not find a law of diminishing returns. And we have many millions of examples. So when we see people who have actually transformed themselves in front of us, people who have joined with us, and we see they're making a few people, they're making many strides. And then if you take in history, a lot of people, so many acharyas, great devotees, Prabhupada disciples, our contemporaries also. So that gives us evidence that yes, the process works. If there's something wrong, then I need to look at myself. So if I have that willingness to look at myself, and if I'm willing to try to improve, then there's no law of diminishing returns. And also, this one of the most basic examples which I heard first, and it really is amazing, that there's no other word which you can keep chanting. There are only 3 words: Hare, Krishna, and Ram, right? 16 syllables, and we're chanting it 108 times as a whole round. So something like 27,000 words in a day, multiplied by whatever number of days and years that we pass. Now, can you think of any other word which we can repeat? That example was given many years ago. Say Coca-Cola. Can you say Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola? I mean, are we going to say 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes? It's impossible. Take any word. Take your father's word. Take your wife's word. Or, or take anyone's word. I mean, it's just not possible. So there is when Krishna says that he's dancing on a tongue when we say the word, when we are chanting, he means that if we make the effort to recognize his potency through the holy name, then he will reciprocate. So the law of diminishing returns will definitely not work. And we have seen people for 50 years, let's say His Holiness Satswarup Maharaj, 1966, today is 2022. I mean, longevity is one, but there are so many, like from there, people who are there 55, 60 years, and very steady and completely soaked into that. So many devotees. So that clearly gives us that what is theory and then what is practical. Both are if somebody is following it to the T, then it is really working. So it is something which Krishna Consciousness is something where we experience. The theory cannot convince anyone only. Theory is a good start, the philosophy is necessary. But the practice and the experience, Anubhav, is really something which can make us more convinced. Like say, when we talk of chanting, we look at other aspects. We all have bad traits, some bad traits or the other. Somebody is very angry, somebody is very restless, somebody is very envious. So many things are there. Maybe we have many of these things. But we ourselves, when we see over a period of time, or maybe we have bad habits which we had. Many people had bad habits of vices. And then we see that over time that my urge is gone. So people who may be eating meat, now when they walk past, they don't get the urge, or they actually feel obnoxious about it. So we see that we make progress. Why is that? The mind is still the same, but it has because it has been slowly purified. So while we've got a long way to go, but we can see that if we attempt, there are many trails that show us that we have made progress. That our anger may be diminishing. Maybe if I'm yelling 10 times in a month, maybe next month I'll come down to 5 or 7. Maybe my tone is less. So many ways. I mean, there are subtle ways, many ways which we find. Even our awareness, first we may not even be aware that we are making a mistake. Now we start becoming aware, we feel a little guilty. These are all signs to show that the process works, and if we now take it further, then that's improvement. So introspection is necessary in chanting, in our behavior, and that confidence and the experience, the anubhav, gives us greater effort to propel forward. I don't know if I answered your question.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a very practical answer along with the points. There is one question in the chat box, Prabhuji. It is asked by Kiran Krishna Padiyar. Prabhuji, in our day-to-day life, we have a craving to earn more material assets, financial stability. We feel we can be happy, but what is the right conception one should have when engaged in this pursuit? Can you please share some of the realizations on this? So there's nothing wrong in making money. If someone has a desire and someone has also a talent or some ability, knowledge, there's nothing wrong. So because I had asked this question also to Maharaj, because often we feel that so should I just do my work, little less? No, Arjun, if he was
Arjun's had put his heart and soul into becoming the best archer he could, but he used it in Krishna's service. So the key is how we utilize it. As I earlier mentioned, that money is not the problem. The issue is our intent or our thought, that which the mentality that pursuing only after money. So if you just keep on using it for ourselves or an immediate neighbor, that is a problem. But if you have a ability, or if Krishna has given us, or if you have a desire to have, then if you can inculcate a higher desire to actually utilize that, then it's even more. Then if Krishna wants that, he feels you are ready for it, then you can get much more. But if Krishna wants that, no, that is impeding your spiritual life, it may make it less, we'll be ready to accept it. But by having that material desire itself, or the strong desire to have material assets, is not a problem, provided we are ready to share it, use it in the best possible way. Say if you are very keen to go up the corporate ladder, then you become a vice president and you have much more influence and more impact on people. Imagine you can do through your networking, through your connections, to whether it's inviting to people themselves also see that, because nowadays people look at the externals also, so they say, well, wow, he's a vice president and still he's able to, he's not eating meat, or people come to know that he's chanting or he's following regular principles. So this personal example also helps. Also, we invite people to programs, or we give donations. We indirectly also, if we are in a corporate world and there's CSR, then we lead them also to donations. There are so many ways we can do it. So if we have a power, are we willing to use that influence for Krishna's service? So basically, having the material desire to make it is not a problem. We must top it up by the utilization. Otherwise, it can destroy us. If we just pursue mindlessly, and it'll trick us. And we have to be honest with ourselves. Like someone has earns, let's say, 50 lakhs a year, and he donates 25,000, and he feels I'm doing great. So every donation helps, but we have to see the proportion. After I take into account what I need, what my emergency needs are, what the savings are, and then what can I give? So it's just a very simplistic example, but I'm saying that it has to be something which is really showing that you actually are keen to make an impact. But if someone is earning only, say, 5 lakhs a year, clearly even 10,000 is a big amount. So it's not just the amount, but it is one way to know is, once Maharaj mentioned to me, and I'll never forget that, he said that Krishna doesn't see what you give. Whether somebody gives 1 crore, whether somebody gives 1 lakh, or whether they give 10,000, that's none. Krishna sees what you hold back. And that hold back is money, hold back in consciousness, hold back in time. If I can do much more, I mean, if I say I can do much more and I'm doing a little bit, then that's not enough. But if I'm struggling with so many things and nobody else knows, only Krishna knows and I know, or the immediate family might know, there may be so many challenges. And in that also, I'm trying to a little bit, that Krishna sees that. So we must always be guided that principle that how much am I holding back? That doesn't mean that we just recklessly just give it and then repent after 3 days. No, that's not. We're not trying to be a shooting star. We had to. It's a marathon race. But if it pinches us a little bit, that's not a problem. We have to be responsible, and we have got guidance from Rupa Goswami also how we should go about. There's so many ways we can do it. We can consult others. So there's no harm in having assets, but you have to recognize that Krishna has given us that ability. If it actually happens, what can I do to reciprocate? That urgency that Krishna has given me, I want to reciprocate. Can I do something? What can I do? Time, consciousness, money.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Any other questions? Prabhuji, one last question, if there is no other questions. Since you are a counselor and taking care of many families, what is your advice to the family as such to be more stronger in Krishna consciousness, especially to those who are new to the Krishna consciousness movement? They know what Krishna is, but they would like to be more into deep. What would be your advice as a family where there are pluses and minuses?
Today, if you see the state of the world, practically almost all the developed nations, whether they're in Europe, USA, even now it's happening in Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, people who have a lot of money, Australia, of course, that, the concept of family is breaking. Either it's completely broken or it's breaking tremendously. Why? Because over 200 years since the Industrial Revolution, the pursuit has been individualism. What is in it for me? Nowadays, celebrities, when they get married, they draw up contracts beforehand only. That, okay, if you stay 3 years for marriage, with me in marriage, if some 65-year-old guy is marrying a 28-year-old beauty queen, okay, she'll get this much if she stays 3 years in marriage. I'm telling you, these are facts. I can name the people who have already had that. These are public knowledge. So that is the concept. So it's gone to the level where they actually disregard. And even in India, unfortunately, even in the cities where there's a pursuit of Western lifestyles, because we're educated in such a way, we're brainwashed in their culture, that this is happening. So the first tip I would say is that respect and value what we have. That means to make a marriage, if you see that, if you are, say, let's say if you are a devotee, struggling devotee couple, which we are already, that means Prabhupada is a very important aspect in our life. I'm assuming that. Then we should always be considering that let us not do something which will harm his reputation, because our reputation doesn't matter. It is him, because people know it. The Hare Krishna wala, the ISKCON people. But on the other hand, if a marriage works for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, then that's such a beacon light for others today, and it's going to become even more after 20 and 30 years. It is a rarity. So people now don't even marry, they live in relationships, etc. Then they'll just be friends so that they can go. So actually protecting. So in that, there are going to be things which are likable for other partner and things which we dislike also. But then we have the same. So as Vishakha Mataji, Yadubhai Prabhu's wife, she said once very nicely, she said that just learn how much we should be grateful for and how much the other person has tolerated us also. If we start, then we also start, being tolerating. It's not one way. So all these are thoughts which can help us to protect. And then together, we try and see that if we can help the children in such a way in today's climate. So basically preserving the family value is important. Of course, I would also caution that, it's subservient to the spiritual principle, because it shouldn't be that becomes the goal. There are sometimes a feeling that, okay, I'm just happy with my family. I've got my chanting, I've got my guru, I've got my rounds, I've got my deities, my ghar pe ho. I've come to the temple. Then we are like other faiths, tokenism. No, we dedicate in whatever way we can. It's not a matter of time, it's a matter of consciousness. We're always thinking, what can I do? So family is meant to really help each other. So, and then that companionship helps, because there are going to be many tribulations, health problems, when we grow in 10, 20 years, our elders will also be slowly passing away. So many relatives will be affected. We also have ups and downs, financial, social, so many things. We may go to other countries, cities. Through all this, 30, 40, 50 years, there's nobody else who knows this except your spouse. I mean, now you start thinking, what happened to me in 1986, 87? I mean, koi hai nahi, what do I? But he or she, they're the two. So when you look back and say that all that, there was the most happiest moments, then there were some disaster moments. I went into depression, I had this difficulty, that difficulty. Through all that, so these are moments that you can appreciate that Krishna's put us together, we are holding together, we're carrying on, and we are grateful for that, and let's carry on. And at the end of the day, we are human beings. It's not like we are not artificial. So sometimes the natures are such that, life is not that, the goal is not that, it has to be the highest, means I want to have 10 on 10 in my life. Sometimes you find that personalities are such, it's difficult, but at least it should be you can say, at a very minimum, there should be a cordiality, and hopefully there's a comfort level. Then we pursue our own, and after some time we pursue our own ways. They are bound to be, and men and women are like Venus and Mars. But the goal of family, because imagine the devastation to children when they see a broken family. We can't even calculate the man. So here, if they see happy families, and you'll see those people who have done well in their marriages, oftentimes they have seen examples of their parents who they'll say that they've never seen them shout at each other in public. They may have a lot of disagreements, but they'll do it in private. But they have a united front with the children. So these, if we make, and this doesn't come automatically. So if we try to work towards it, if that's a sacrifice. So if we work towards it, So that I would say would be a very important goal for as a joint family project. So even if we have disagreements, differences, different views, but here there's a certain loyalty that let me do my job. It can't be one-sided. It must be let us try and make it. If that desire is there, and if we don't know how to do it, we can take help. There are people who can give us help. Fortunately, even among devotees, there are some who give such wonderful help that we can at least try to see if we're honest to ourselves, and then from that things can only get better. So preserving a family, protecting it has a great Krishna conscious value, not only as an example, not only for ourselves, not only for our children, but also it can help us, the stability to have the confidence to take on higher spiritual goals.
Thank you very much for a very, very valuable advice, Prabhuji. So I believe there is no more questions. So we will get into the next one, which is vote of thanks. It will be given by Balram Kinkar Prabhu, who is joining us from Kingdom of Bahrain, Balram Desh. And then Radhakund Prabhuji will just address us in two or three sentences. And then we'll end up with the Narsimha prayers. Balram Kinkar Prabhu, over to you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. It's a wonderful, enlightening session, Prabhuji. It's where you have given a good insight where we do get the happiness. And also you have said we have how to recognize the happiness. It's a very wonderful session, Prabhu. Especially Prabhupada's quote we have made, where you have said how much grateful we must be. And also one more quote you have said by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Given this material world is like a toilet. Toilet.
He didn't say bathroom, he said toilet.
Toilet, yes, bro. It's really, so we should not find any happiness in the toilet. So that our happiness with Krishna, we have to look for that one. That's very good insight, Prabhuji. I thank you so much, Prabhuji, to coming to our Bhagavad Puran Konkani. And also I thank Radhakund Prabhuji to bring you into this session. And also thank to Muralidhar Charan Prabhuji and his team, especially the IT team, which makes us all together from all different parts of the world. We assemble and have one big session, like a great people will come and give us an insight about Bhagavad Gita and so many sessions about Bhagavatam and our other things, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
I should be thanking all of you. Thank you so much. I'm pretty impressed that you have this on a regular basis. This is very wonderful satsang, wonderful association. We come together among all, find some common link.
Hare
I can see
Krishna.
Radhakund Prabhu being the instrument.
Thank you very much. And in spite of your busy schedule, you took out some time and you are very enthusiastic to address to all these Konkani GSB. So I also...
Sorry to interrupt, but can I be honest? Because somebody said earlier, honestly, I'm not that busy. And I had all the time in the world. So no, I am not. You ask my son, you ask my father, my wife, they'll tell you all. I'm not.
So that's good for us. So we can keep on inviting you now and then for your nice sessions. And and also just for our other Bandhavas to know that Prabhuji has, done a lot of contributions to our Radha Gopinath temple. He has helped us in taking care of the Bhaktivedanta Hospital, the Gopal's Garden, the Eco Village. So many contributions he had done. So as far as, Prabhuji has shown us how an ideal Grahastha life can be led, and not only taking care of his family very nicely, but also taking care of all the brahmacharis who are there in the ashram very nicely. And how the brahmacharis and the grahasthas, how Radhanath Maharaj, along with all these grahasthas, I mean, particularly Krishna Chandra Prabhu, how they have, come together and taking care of each other very nicely. So this is like an example where it is always quoted in all the different temples, that how this temple, Chopati temple, has been a very unique example in showing how the brahmacharis and grahasthas have come together and built this temple nicely. So thank you very much, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, for leading us by example, and hope to see you soon on our GSB Konkani Bhagavad Purana Konkani group. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hari Bol. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much. I'm genuinely feel privileged and honored. Thank you very much.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Radhakund Prabhuji.
Thank you. Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, His Grace Krishna Chandra Prabhu. This is very, very unique session we had, explaining about the Grahastha as well as the concept of happiness in Krishna consciousness. It was your humbleness that you are saying that I am not so busy. Everyone knows.
It's the truth, Prabhu. No, I'm telling you, it's the truth. I find it difficult to convince people, but it's the fact.
Thank you very much.
My son has rendered me half unemployed. I'm very happy. Anyway.
So please forgive us in case of any mistakes in the course of serving you.
Thank you very much.
We expect to serve you in near future quickly.
It will be my great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are having the Konkani summary now of whatever you have said by His Grace Viprasudama Prabhu. So he will give to the community what you have said in the Konkani language.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. राधाकुंड प्रभु कनी मुरलीधर प्रभू का थँक्स आहे भारी एक वंडरफुल सेशन केलेलं आणि कृष्णचंद्र प्रभू म्हणारी रिअली त्यांनी एक सगळ्या भक्त समाजाचे होड लीडर्स आणि काही डाऊट ना म्हाका एक पण हांणी सांगिल्लें आशिल्लें त्यांनी म्हळ्यार एक ग्रहस्थ जावन वय तांगेलें कॉन्ट्रिब्युशन एक संन्यासी म्हणटी आसा म्हळ्यार तितले मटा तांणी प्रचार भक्तीन तूं आणि तितले जनाक तांणी सहाय केलेलो आसा की इस्कॉनांत आशिल्ले संन्यासी जन्म म्हणटात की आमगेल्या किना चड तांणी कॉन्ट्रिब्यूट केला म्हळ्यार तांगेले एक विशेषताय आसा तांणी त्या इंडियाचे होल इंडस्ट्रियल फॅमिली दोकून जावन वय तांकां ते देवान तांकां बुद्धी आनी ते एक इच्छा समाजात सेवा करचे आनी विंगड जना भक्तीक प्रेरणा दिवन तांकां एक आमकां मुखार सुन हाडटा तो व्हड विशय आनी आज तांणी आमगेले फॉरम आयिल्ले ते भारी आमगेले एक भाग्य म्हणून सांगितलं तांकां कांय एक डाऊट ना म्हळ्यार हे एक फॉर इयर्स टुगेदर वी कॅन स्पीक ऑफ दीस गायड्स दिवस अशें जाल्लें म्हणून सो एक व्हडशें अशें हांव एक 5 मिनट भितर तांगेले एक मेन पॉयंट्स समरायज करचे ट्राय करता तांणी स्टार्ट केलेलें सेशन की कन्सेप्ट ऑफ हॅपीनेस आनंद म्हळ्यार कशें न्हय म्हणून जिवनांत तूं स्पेशली भक्ती आनी कृष्ण भावनामृता तूं आमकां मेळचें आनंद कशें न्हय सो पुराजनाने एक ध्येय असता लक्ष्य असतं जीवनात की आमकां आनंद जावंक तांतूं कशें एक मतभेद ना पुराजनाक तेंच पॉयंट आसा जाल्यार आयची सिच्युएशन तूं म्हळ्यार हे आजची कशी आमगेलें जीवन जाल्लें आसा ताचे निमित्त मस्त सकट स्ट्रेस मेंटल प्रॉब्लेम्स एक प्रकार ते सहज रुपार जाता सिच्युएशना निमित्त तेंची परिस्थितींत आमी पुरो आसत आनी आमी हॅपीनेसा खातीर आनंदा खातीर कितले प्रयास करता ती तेन्ना ते मेळना जाल्यार आमी देवान भक्तीन केन्ना नासतात पळय तेन्ना ते एज अ बाय प्रॉडक्ट मेळटा म्हणून सांगिल्लें म्हळ्यार खंयचे आमी वखद घेता ती खंयची एक खातीर घेता जाल्यार ताची एक सायड इफेक्ट आसता तशींची देवान भक्तीन तूं भाग घेवचे प्रयास करतना ताचे बाय प्रॉडक्ट ऑफ सायड इफेक्ट ते आनंद मेळटा तशें म्हणून सांगिल्लें तांणी आयची कानान स्पेशली तांणी सांगिल्लें की मनाक कशें एक खुशी जाता मन आयिल म्हणटात पळय उतराक मन आयिल करचें मनाक कशें खुशी जाता तें करूं ट्राय करतात आमी म्हणून फील गूड फॅक्टर म्हणून तांणी सांगिल्लें म्हळ्यार इन्स्टंट पुरा कशी इन्स्टंट कॉफी इन्स्टंट हे तशी कुडले कशें कितें जावप आनी ताची एक हॅपीनेस जावप म्हणून सांगिल्लें जाल्यार आमी ते ट्राय करता ती जाल्यार तांणी एग्जाम्पल दिलें की स्पेशली तांणी बॉलिवूडा विशीं सांगलें वा फिल्म इंडस्ट्री विशीं सांगलें तांकां इतलें दुड्ड आसा तांगेलें आमगेलें आमी कितलें इमॅजिन करूं जायना कल्पन करचें जायना तांगेल्या किंवा ताची किंवा तांगेल्या चड तें पुरा फॅसिलिटीज रिसोर्सीस आनी दुड्ड आसता जाल्यार तांकां पळयत की तांकां एक सूख ना म्हूण जिवनांत तांणी एक पॉयंट हायलायट केल्लें आनी कितले एक नमुने व्यसन ड्रग्स अल्कोहॉल करून कितले की सकट समाजांत जाता जाल्यार तांकां एक सूख मेळना म्हूण तांणी सांगिल्लें आसा आणि 2-3 एग्जाम्पल दिले कशी एक प्रिन्स आले की त्यांनी कशी एक दुड्ड चेड असल्यारी कसने पुणी कोरनु एक दुड्ड ಹೊಳೆಯುತ್ತಾನೆ कसं एक सण निमित्त मात्र खुशी कतिरमु जाल्यार ते मेळना तशी म्हणून तांणी सांगितलें तांणी पर्सनल एग्जाम्पल दिलें तांगेले एक फ्रेंड आशिल्लो तांकां गुर्त आशिल्लो ताका फ्युचर अभ्यास आशिल्लो जाल्यार तांकां कळना की तांकां मुखार कांय जायना आनी तांणी मागीर एक एग्जाम्पल दिलें चेडू वाल खातीर की चेडू म्हाका काचकूल केल्यार टिकलिंग म्हणून तांणी सांगलें काचकूल केल्यार एक मिनिट हसतात म्हणून तांणी सांगलें ते बंद केलें सुद्दां नुकतो बसलें तशी आजकाल आमकां मस्त सकट टेक्नॉलॉजी टीवी मीडिया पुरा आयला एक प्रकार काचकूल या टिकलिंग केल्या म्हणकेची ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ काळा खातीर आमकां हांस येता ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ टायमा खातीर मागीर मन आतां नेक्स्ट कसं जावं म्हूण तशें दिसता म्हूण तांणी सांगलें ताकाची एक प्रकार कसं एक कंट्रोल नासल्यार तांणी आयज सांजचो डोळ्यान सांगलें की मे बी तांणी व्हिडिओ गेम्स खेळटा आसतली व्हड तरी खेळटा आसतली जाल्यार एक समय अशी येता की तांकां अशी मन आयता की हांव लायफा कसं करता असं म्हूण कसं पुरा आजकाल हे परिस्थिती जाल्ल्या म्हूण तांणी सांगलें आनी कसं एक नमुने नियम नाशिल्ले जीवन केलें निमित्त कसं मन आयिल्लें तशी तांगेलें ते मेन पॉयंट फर्स्ट पार्ट घेवचें आशिल्लें मन आयिल्लें तशी मना कसं खुशी जाता तें केल्लें कसं करता गेली ती ते एक पॉयंट इतलें की म्हाका तांकां जनांक स्वता वयली एक विश्वास आसना आनी स्वता वयली एक प्रिती ना म्हूण तांणी सांगिल्लें ताचे निमित्त कितले की तांणी स्टॅटिस्टिक्स दिल्ले कशी कितले जन स्पेशली पाश्चात्य देशांतू तांणी आत्महत्या और सुसायड करचे वय प्लॅन करता ती म्हूण पुरा आसून वय सो आमकां जिवनांत कसं जावं तें मेळना आनी कसं नाक जालेलें तें मेळटा तशी मस्त टायम सिच्युएशन जाता आनी तांणी वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गनायझेशनान स्टॅटिस्टिक्स कोट केलें की 21st सेंच्युरीन तूं मनाचे प्रॉब्लेम पुरा कशी व्हड डिजीज म्हूण आनी ताचे निमित्त मागीर विंगड पुरा रोग येता आमकां मनांचो एक खुशी ना पड ताचे निमित्त एक रोग सुरू जावचो म्हूण तांणी सांगलें आनी तांणी सांगलें की एक लॉ ऑफ डिमिनिशिंग रिटर्न्स म्हूण तांणी सांगलें की सुरेपंत स्टार्ट जाता आनी तेंच्या विशयार एक खुशी जाता जाल्यार ते मुखारसून ते रिपीट करता वता सुरेपंत कितलो आनंद जालोलो हे संवसारीक सुखांत सेकंड टायम तितलें जायना जाल्यार तांणी सांगलें एक मना तुमी बरें आती की केन्ना तुमी निस्वार्थ भावनेन आतां आमी तांगेलें एग्जाम्पल दिलें की लायफान तो आमी पळयलें आमगेले आनंद जावन आशिल्लो तो अनुभव केलेले ते क्षण खंयचे आशिल्ले तेन्ना तांणी सांगलें की आमी खंयची एक निस्वार्थ भावना विंगड जनाल आनंदा खातीर केन्ना काम करता ती तांचो आमकां एक मस्त आनंद मेळटा तें तांणी एक पॉयंट सांगिल्लें आनी कशें आमी विंगड जना सहाय्य करूं म्हूण आनी तांणी सांगलें की तांणी इनफ एग्जाम्पल म्हळ्यार तांणी पर्सनली व्हड उद्योगपती जावन तें एक तसले सर्कल्सान तांणी भोंवन तांकां गोश्ट आसा ताका तांणी सांगलें की म्हाका गोश्ट आसा पळोवन जनाक की इतलें दुड्ड आसा तांगेलें जाल्यार एक लायफ सॅटिस्फॅक्शन ना और एक आनंद ना मागीर अशी जावं की कृष्ण भावनामृतांत आनी भक्तींत आयलेरी आतां सांगलें दुड्ड आशिल्ल्या जनाक प्रॉब्लेम असो हें आसा जाल्यार कृष्ण भावनामृत आयल्यार कांय आमकां एंजायटी और प्रॉब्लेम येयच ना तशें ना म्हूण तांणी सांगलें भक्तींत आयल्यार प्रॉब्लेम आसतलेंची अशी न्हय की तेंचेरी सांज जाता जाल्यार तांणी सांगलें की तांणी आमकां भक्तींत आशिल्ले निमित्त आमकां कशें जावं तें एक्झॅक्टली मेळच ना तें मॅच जायच ना जाल्यारीची अशी साध्य आसा की आमकां तो भक्तींत टायम काडटा आमकां विश्वास येता की म्हगेल मन आशिल्लें जायनी जाल्यार देवाल मनांत कशें की आसा हाजेर म्हगेल चांग जातलें मुखार सुरी इमिजिएटली म्हाका कळच ना जाल्यार चांग जातलें म्हणून सो तांणी सांगलें की आमी केन्ना ग्रेटर कॉजा खातीर आमगेल्या किना आमगेलें एक कम्फर्ट झोना दुखून और कितले जाता ताजे किंवा चिके चड प्रयास करतात आमी देवाल भक्ती वचे खातीर तेन्ना खंडित देव हेल्प करता निस्वार्थ भावनेन कशें करचें तांणी म्हाका सांगलें की आतंकवादी और टेररिस्ट तांणी कशें की तांगेलें जीवन दितात जाल्यार तें जीवन दिवचें आनी तें कॉन्ट्रिब्युशन करचें तें तामसीक म्हूण तांणी सांगलें म्हळ्यार कशें की तांणी कशें की निस्वार्थ भावनेन तांगेलें जीवन दिलें ना जाल्यार ते खंयच्या खातीर कारणच पडत तें तामसीक आसा तो तें मतलब ना तांणी म्हणल्यार ताजेर विंगड जनाल बरें जायना तें डिस्ट्रक्टीव म्हूण सांगलें म्हळ्यार विंगड जनाल नाश जाता ताजेर तांचे मागीर तांणी सांगलें की राजसीक भावनेन आमी केन्ना विंगड जना हेल्प करूं ट्राय करता ती तेन्ना तांकां आमगेल्या मनांत हेंच आसता की म्हगेलें नांव जावं हांगा तूं आनी तुमकां तें कंट्रोल करता तें हांव सांगलें म्हण की आनी करता आमी सहाय करतात वय जाल्यार सहाय केलेल्या जनांक सांगता की तूं कितलो व्हड मनुष्य, तूं भारी चांग सहाय करता असं म्हण, तशें एक भावन जाता. आणि त्यांनी सांगले की सात्विक रुपार केन्ना करता ती तें भारी चांग म्हणून. जाल्यार आमी सात्विक की ना वयर चड येवका. जाल्यार त्यांनी सांगले की सात्विक म्हळ्यार हा चांग एज्युकेटेड जन आसता ती. स्पेशली आता आमच्या समाजांत आमकां दिसता पुरो की हा आमची गल आसता ती GSP एज्युकेटेड आसता ती वय. जाल्यार ताजें न्ही कांय क्वॉलिफिकेशन ते इनफ ना म्हणून. ते आसूनय प्रॉब्लेम आसा. तांणी सांगले की मस्त सकट प्रॉब्लेम आसा एज्युकेटेड जना निमित्त जाल्यान. सो एज्युकेशन और सात्विक क्वालिटी असल्यार प्रॉब्लेम सॉल्व जाता त्या वेळी न्ही म्हणून तांणी सांगिल्लें. आणि तांणी सांगलें की आमी कशी आमी तूं भाग घेवं सहाय करूं येता. दुडवान मात्र न्ही आमगेल बुद्धीन उपयोग करून आमगेल टायम ते आमी केन्ना कॉन्ट्रिब्यूट करता ती निस्वार्थ भावनेन विंगड जनां खातीर तेन्ना भारी खोशयेची म्हणून. तांकां एक 2 एग्जाम्पल उडोवपा सांगलें. स्पेशली तांणी तांगेल पुना यात्रा मस्त वर्स फुडली तांणी एक एग्जाम्पल दिलें. एक सांज चल्लो सकाळी 4 गंटे म्हळ्यार पुना यात्रा म्हळ्यार हजारो कटल्यान जन आमकां इथे भाग घेतली की आमी पार्टिसिपेट केला तातूंत मस्त वर्स फुडें. तांगेले बंगलो आशिल्लो तो मफतलाल बंगलो म्हणून. आणि तांगेल बंगलोन तो 2000 जनां तांगेल ग्राउंड तांणी सगळो दिवस पण रात्री तांणी आमकां तातूंत भाग घेवचे दिता आशिल्ली. आणि ते म्हळ्यार तांगेल घरकडे तांगेल किचनान तूं पुरा जन तांगेल घर म्हळ्यार पुरा जनां खातीर ओपन करता आशिल्ली तांणी. ते 2000 जन तांगेल बंगल्याचे ग्राउंडार येवन 3 दिवस सकाळ दोन रात्री ते आसता आशिल्ली. ताका तांणी एग्जाम्पल दिलें की चप्पल पुरा एकला म्हणजे चप्पल स्टँड ना कितले चप्पल आसता. तांणी सांगलें की एक सांज चल्लो सकाळी 4 गंट्या उठून ते चप्पल अरेंज करून दवरता आशिल्ले. म्हणजे पुरा जनान भायर वता तांकां मागीर कश्ट जावचे ना म्हणून पॅर करून दवरता आशिल्ले. आणि तांणी सकाळी अशें केल्लें की विंगड जनां कळूंक ना जे की हांव तें केलेलें म्हणून. ताका तो सकाळी 4 गंटे उठून ते काम करता आशिल्लो. ताका तांणी सांगलें की असल एक सांसान निस्वार्थ भावनान केलेलो विशय पळय तांकां स्वतावय आनंद जाता आणि आमी तांकां पळयतात ते आमकांय आनंद जाता म्हणून. म्हळ्यार आमी कशें की एक निस्वार्थ भावनान केल्यार आमकां कशी खुशी जातली होय जाल्यार आमी विंगड जनाक एक प्रेरीत करतात. तांणी सांगलें की इतले वर्स नंतर म्हाका तो फान विशय उडगास आसा म्हळ्यार ताजेर म्हगेल मना वयर कितलो परिणाम आयला म्हूण तांणी आमगेर शेअर केलें. आनीक एग्जाम्पल तांणी शेअर केलें की पुष्प ऑफर करतना एक बगलेन आशिल्ल्या मनशाला एक सान फूल गुलाब आशिल्ले आनी तांगेले सान फूल आशिल्ले. तांणी त्या मनशान तांकां तांगेल गुलाब दिले म्हळ्यार तूं व्हड भक्त आणि तांणी सान फूल तांणी दवरून घेतला म्हणून. तांकां कसं गेलें म्हणून कळ्ळें. जाल्यार असं सांसान निस्वार्थ भावनेन केलेलो विशय ताजेर एक आनंद आसा म्हणून तांणी सांगलें. आणि तांणी सांगलें की कृष्णा आमी कसं एफर्ट घालता ती त्या पळयता म्हणून. आमगेले एफर्ट कसं ताजेर कसं व्हड इम्पॅक्ट जाता की ना. तांणी रामायणाचें एग्जाम्पल दिलें. एक सोकणी सान एक रेत हाजे रेवें कण मुखार सुट्टा आशिल्ली म्हणून. जाल्यार तांणी देवान हनुमंता सांगलें की व्हड काम सान एक रेवें कण मुखार सुशें तें म्हगेल खातीर एकटाची म्हणून. म्हळ्यार आमी हें पळयता ती की कितले तो म्हगेल खातीर ट्राय करता प्रयास करता. देव प्रयास पळयता ताजेन सक्सेस जालें की ताजेन कसं ताजे परिणाम जाल्ले की देव तें पळयना म्हणून तांणी सांगलें. सो मागीर तांणी मागीर ऑफकोर्स क्वेश्चन आन्सर सेशन जावन तांगेले एक चांग पॉयंट्स आशिल्ले. फॅमिली कॉन्सेप्टा वयर तांणी सांगलें की फॅमिली म्हळ्यार केन्ना ओट्टू मेळ्ळो आजकाल तर रेअर जाता असं की पुरा जनान ओट्टू रावचें. तांणी सांगलें की आमी एग्जाम्पल दिता की आमी एक सहनशीलता वयर तांणी दिलें की आमी फॅमिली केन्ना एक सहनशीलता भावना ओट्टू राबल्यार ते एक व्हड विशय तें एक सांगलें. आनी तांणी मागीर एक मना वयर पॉयंट सांगलें. तांणी राधानाथ स्वामी कोट करून तांणी सांगलें की मन म्हळ्यार आमगेलें मित्र वय आणि शत्रू वय म्हूण त्या प्रकारार तांणी सांगलें. आनी आमकां केन्ना मनान आमी हें आमगेर बुद्धी यूज करून केन्ना आमी वाजयतात देवाल विशय आयकता ती आनी व्हड चांद दृश्टान पळयता ती की कशी जन आसता ती भक्त व्हड भक्त तेन्ना खंडीत आमी स्लोली इम्प्रूव जातली म्हूण तांणी सांगलें. हगूर इम्प्रूव जातली आनी आमकां तें कळटलें म्हूण सांगलें. कसं की मन कसं एक रेस्टलेस आसता चंचल ही मनाक कृष्ण त्या भगवद्गीतान देवान सांगिल्लें तांणी तें रिपीट केलें की मन रेस्टलेस आसा. कसं एक सान कण आमगेले दांता सिरकल्यार ते कण काड जेदोळ त्या मनाक म्हणटा पळय शांती मेळना. आमी ट्राय करता आसतली ते जीव आमगेले घुंवता आसतली तोंडा भितर ते वच ते दोळटे म्हळ्यार ते मन नुतो भशेन सोना ते काळ वच ते दोळटे. तशींची कितलेंय कसं नासल्यार मन एक खंयचे एक पॉयंट सोदितली दुःख पावचे खातीर हें मेगेलें ना तें मेगेलें ना. तसं आसता तें पळयना कसं ना ताजे वयरी चड मन वता म्हणून तांणी सांगलें. आणि आजकालच्या जमान्यात तांणी सांगलें की आता सर्वे काडल्यार मस्तकड भंय आसता पुरा पशी टॉप 10 भंय खंयचे म्हणून तांचो मस्तकड विशय आसा जाल्यार फुडें आनी आतां तो एक 2 नांव भंय 8 जणांक फुडें येशी लिस्टांत आनी आतां भंया लिस्टांत एक म्हळ्यार टेररिस्टान ऑफकोर्स आनी दोन्ही तांणी सांगलें रिजेक्शनाचे म्हळ्यार विंगडच्यान आमकां एक्सेप्ट करना ती कोणीय जावं असो फॅमिलीन तसो सोसायटीन तसो जॉबान प्रोफेशनान तसो ते एक्सेप्ट करना ते निमित्त आमकां तांकां सांगलें मन येता हांव कांय प्रेजन ना तसो पुरा विचार आजकाल मस्त येता ती म्हूण सांगिल्लें त्या एक जना मस्त भंय आसा की विंगडच्यान आमकां सोड घालतली ती म्हूण त्या प्रकारे तांणी सांगिल्लें. आनी कसं नाही असल्यार तांणी एक लास्ट एग्जाम्पल दिलें वेट लिफ्टिंग एग्जाम्पल देवा वयर विश्वास आसूं का आनी हें एक मनांत आसूं का की देव सोड घालना देवाक आमगेर वयर मस्त प्रीती आसा म्हूण तांणी एक एग्जाम्पल दिलें सांज चल्लां वेट लिफ्टिंगाचें की एक कोण एक चल्लो सांज चल्लो जिम्मा वचून 100-150 किलो उकडू वता तो उकडचे म्हणके वता ताका जक्कल मेळ जाल्यार तो सडनली एक्सपिरियन्स करता अनुभव करता अरे तो उकडटा असो म्हूण जाल्यार ताण उकडलेलें न्ही तागे बाप पुसमाक शिरापून ते उकडटा ते तेन्ना ताका दिसता की ताणें उकडलेलें म्हणून मागीर ताका कळटा की हांव बॉक्सून सायडा दुखून उकडलेलें ना ताजे निमित्त जाल्लें म्हणून ताका मस्त सकट आमगे लायफान प्रॉब्लेम आसल्यार वय आमकां दिसतलें की आमी सॉल्व करता तो आमकां करूं जायना जाल्यार कृष्ण देव मागशीन तुल्यान सहाय कर न्हू ते वेट लिफ्टिंग आमगेर खातीर करता आसता म्हूण लायफान तूं तें तांणी दाखयलें ताका आमी कृतज्ञ आसूं का म्हूण आनी आमी केन्ना तें आमकां कळटा की देवान आमगेर खातीर कसं कसं केलेलें आसा तांणी प्रभुपाद स्वामी कोट केलें कसं कसं केलेलें आसा तें आमकां एक मन आवरून आमी समज धड जाल्यार तांणी सांगलें की इन्स्टंटली आमी कृष्ण भावनामृता वचून आमकां भायर वचचें जाय आसता आमी केन्नाय देवा विशय चिंतन करतले की देवा तूं कितलो व्हड तूं कितलो चांग तुगेले प्रिती निमित्त आमगेलें जीवन चलता म्हणून सकाळ तें एक धरती पॉयंट आमी धरता त्या प्रकार तांणी सांगिल्लें. आनी कसले आमगेले प्रॉब्लेम आसल्यार व्हड प्रॉब्लेम आसल्यार कृष्णाज पॉवर टू हील म्हणलें आमकां दिसचें पुरो की आमगे लायफान तो खंयच्याय परिस्थितीन तो प्रॉब्लेम इतलो व्हड आसा म्हणून जाल्यार आमगेलो विश्वास आसूं का तांणी सांगलें की कृष्णान शक्ती आमगेले प्रॉब्लेम सॉल्व करचे कितलेकीच व्हड आसा आमगेले प्रॉब्लेम ना ते आमी मन हावेल्यार तांणी सांगलें की तो एक व्हड विशय आनी तें स्पेशली भक्ताल संघांत आसतना तें मन आवडटा आनी तें आमकां कळटा म्हूण सांगलें. आनी भक्ती सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुरान तें एग्जाम्पल दिलें हें संवसारान कशें जीवन करता म्हणून ऑफकोर्स तिके स्ट्रॉंगली सांगला तांणी जाल्यार एक मन आवडटा तशी विशय तांणी सांगलें की टॉयलेटांत तूं और असले म्हणकेज म्हळ्यार आमी थंय टॉयलेटा बसून सेटल जावचे ट्राय करनात आमगेलें काम करून फुटले भायर येतात तातूंत अशी लेखनात की आमी हांगारा बूक और हांगा बूक वाचून बसू और हांगा न्हिदो का म्हणून आमगेलें काम जेन्ना सिता टॉयलेटा तूं भायर येतात कसं की कारणां नासता ती आनी कोटले भायर येतात तशी ह्या संवसारा खातीर आमगेली तशीच काही एटिट्यूड आसूं का म्हणून तांणी सांगलें कसं की एक निमित्तान आमी आसता ती आमगेलें काम करून आमी भायर वचता ऑफकोर्स इट्स अ व्हेरी डीप पॉयंट तांणी स्ट्रॉंगली सांगिल्लें जाल्यार त्या व्हड जणांन सांगचे तांणी रियलायझेशनान सांगता आनी तें आमगुरागूर आमकां कळटा सो केन्ना ह्या पुरो आमी एक्सेप्ट करता ती तेन्ना आमगेलें तांणी लास्ट एक सांगलें की हिलींग एजंट्स म्हणून म्हळ्यार आमी आमगेले खातीर तर चांग करतलींची जाल्यार आमी केन्ना हें प्रोसेस एक्सेप्ट करता ती भक्तीन पेटता ती मुखार सुन येता ती तेन्ना आमगेले खातीर न्ही आमगेले विंगड जना खातीर आमी सहाय जावचे आनी तांगेले जनरली फॅमिली खातीर सोसायटी खातीर समाजा खातीर बरेपणाचें कारण आमी जावचे साध्य आसा ताका आमकां भाग्य येयाती म्हूण तांणी तसले तांगेले मनान तांगेले विचार प्रकट हरे कृष्ण.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभुजी मस्त धन्यवाद तुमका
हरे
ऐकून समरायज केलेलं कायचे डीप सब्जेक्ट आणतो प्रभुजी लास्ट 2-3 सेंटेन्स तुम्ही सांगितलं श्रद्धापूर्व ऐकून म्हळ्यार प्रभुजीन कन्क्लूड करताना भक्ती विषय सांगितलं असतं व्हॉट डू यू मीन टू बी इन भक्ती म्हणाल टॉपिक व्हॉट डज बीइंग इन भक्ती मीन म्हणाला अंतु आज टॉपिक विषय प्रभुजी कोंकणीन तू करता आसा सांजे त्या मिस कर नाका तंतु एक डायरेक्टली तुमकां कनेक्शन म्हणू पुरो की कसं सांगिल्लें आयचे टोटल आज क्रक्स कसं म्हणून कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ बीइंग हॅपीनेस बीइंग इन कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस थोड एक इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट चेअरमॅन आहे ग्रुपाचे त्यांनी कितले सौम्य भाव अंतु कृष्ण भावनामृत स्वीकार करून तांगेल पूरा फॅमिली अंतु कृष्ण भावनामृत कोर्नी त्या इंडस्ट्रीन स्टील टॉप पोझिशन अंतरा बुक जाता म्हणाला प्रूव्ह करून दिलेलं मनीस त्यांनी ग्रस्त आश्रमांत. त्यानंतर तुमकां पळयतना विंगड एक पॉइंट श्रद्धा केला म्हणून लेखता आसा. पुरा फॅमिली सगळं ಒಟ್ಟು करून तांकां काउन्सिलिंग सिस्टम म्हणलेलो आसा. काउन्सिलिंग सिस्टम म्हणल्यार आमकां डॉक्टराला वचूं येताले जाल्यार म्हाका हुशार ना हाता दुखी पांयां दुखी म्हणून जाल्यार भक्तींतूय थोडे काउन्सिलिंग जावपाचें जाल्यार सिच्युएशन आसता की हांव हें करता की नक्की म्हणल्यार तसं जाल्यार मस्त फॅमिली सगळं गायडन्स करचे काही करतात इतली टाईट शेड्युलांत. त्यांनी विनयपूर्व सांगला की बिसी नात फ्री आसा म्हाका टायम आसा म्हणून जाल्यार तांगेले ते विनम्र भाव ते तशें सांगचे का. मस्त मस्त धन्यवाद तुमकां पुरा जणांक आयचे सेशन अटेंड केलेले. आतां असल सिच्युएशनांतू आयचे टेररिझम वॉर सगळ्या सिच्युएशनांतू आमकां नरसिंह कवच म्हणून आयच्या सेशनाक विराम दिवया. नरसिंह कवच म्हणून बेंगलोरातून अर्जुन राव आसा. अर्जुन राव रेडी आसवे तू? ओके. हरे कृष्णा सूर करूया.
हरे कृष्णा. नरसिंह कवचम वक्षे प्रह्लादेनोदितं पुरा सर्वरक्षाकरं पुण्यं सर्वोपद्रवनाशनं सर्वसम्पत्करं चैव स्वर्गमोक्षप्रदायकं ध्यात्वा नरसिंहं देवेशं हेमसिंहासनस्थितं विवृत्तास्यं त्रिनयनं शरदिन्दुसुमप्रभं लक्ष्म्यालिङ्गितवामाङ्गं विभूतिभिरुपाश्रितं चतुर्भुजं कोमलाङ्गं स्वर्णकुण्डलशोभितं सरोजशोभितोरस्कं रत्नकेयूरमुद्रितं तप्तकाञ्चन सङ्काशं पीतनिर्मलवासनं इन्द्रादिसुलमौलिष्ठ स्फरन्माणिक्यदीप्तिभिः विराजितत्पदद्वन्द्वं शङ्खचक्रादिहेतिभिः गुरुत्मता सविनयं स्तूयमानं मुदान्वितं स्वहृत्कमलसंवासं कृत्वा तु कवचं पठेत् नृसिंहो मे शिरः पातु लोकरक्षात्मसम्भवः सर्वगोपीस्तम्भवासः फालं मे रक्षतु ध्वनिं नृसिंहो मे दृशौ पातु सोमसूर्यग्निलोचनः स्मृतिं मे पातु नृहरि मुनिवर्यस्तुतिप्रियः नासा मे सिंहनामस्तु मुखं लक्ष्मीमुखप्रियः सर्वविद्याधिपः पातु नृसिंहोऽर्चनां मम वक्त्रं पातु बिन्दुवदनः सदा प्रह्लादवन्दितः नृसिंहः पातु मे कण्ठं स्कन्धौ भूवर्णात्कृता दिव्यास्त्रशोभितभुजो नृसिंहः पातु मे भुजौ करो मे देववरदो नृसिंहः पातु सर्वतः हृदयं योगिसाध्यश्च निवासं पातु मे हरिः मध्यं पातु हिरण्याक्ष वक्षः कुक्षिविदारणः नाभिं मे पातु नृहरि स्वनाभि ब्रह्म संस्तुतः ब्रह्माण्डकोटयः कट्यां यस्यासौ पातु मे कटिं गुह्यं मे पातु गुह्यानां मन्त्राणां गुह्यरूपदृक् ऊरु मनोभव पातु जाननी नररूपदृक् जंगे पातु जराभार हर्ता योऽसौ नृकेसरी सुरराज्यप्रदः पातु पादौ मे नृहरीश्वरः सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः पातु मे सर्वशस्तनुम् महोगः पूर्वतः पातु महावीराग्रजोऽग्नितः महाविष्णुर्दक्षिणे तु महाज्वलस्तु नेहितौ पश्चिमे पातु सर्वेषु दिशि मे सवतो मुखः नृसिंहः पातु वाव्याः सौम्यां भूषणविग्रहः ईशान्यात् पातु भद्रो मे सर्वमङ्गलतामकः संसारभैरवः पातु मृत्युर्नृकेसरी इमं नृसिंहं कवचं प्रह्लादमुखमण्डितं भक्तिमान् यः पठेन् नित्यं सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते पुत्रवान् लोके दीर्घायुर्पजायते यै यै कामयते कामं तै प्राप्नोत्य संशयम् सर्वत्र जयमाप्नोति सर्वत्र विजयी भवेत् भूम्यन्तरिक्ष विव्यानां ग्रहाणां विनिवारणं वृश्चिकोरगसम्भूतं विशापहरणं परं ब्रह्मराक्षसयक्षाणां दूरोत्सारणकारणं भूर्जे वा तालपत्रे वा कवचं लिखितं शुभं करमूले धृतं येन सिद्धे कर्म सिद्धयः देवासुरमनुष्येषु स्वं स्वमेव जयं लभेत् एकसन्ध्यं त्रिसन्ध्यं वा यः पठेन्यतो नरः सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्यं भुक्तिं मुक्तिं च विन्दति द्वात्रिंरात्रिसहस्राणि पठेत् शुद्धात्मनां नृणाम् कवचस्यास्य मन्त्रस्य मन्त्रसिद्धिः प्रजायते अनेन मन्त्रराजेन कृत्वा भस्माभिमन्त्रणम् तिलकं विन्यसेद्यस्तु तस्य गृहभयं हरेत् त्रिवारं जपमानस्तु दत्तं वारभिमन्त्र च प्राशेद्यो नरो मन्त्रं नृसिंह ध्यानमाचरेत् तस्य रोगाः प्रणश्यन्ति ये च स्युः कुक्षिसम्भवाः किमत्र बहुनोक्तेन नृसिंहसदृशो भवेत् मनसा चिन्तितं यत्तु यत्तच्छाप्नोत्य संशयम् गर्जन्तं गर्जयन्तं निजभुजपटलं स्फोटयन्तं हठन्तं रूपयन्तं तापयन्तं दिवि भुवि दिजितं क्षेपयन्तं क्षिपन्तं क्रन्दन्तं रोषयन्तं दिशि दिशि सततं सहरन्तं वरन्तं वीक्षन्तं गूर्णयन्तं शरणिकरशो दिव्यसिंहं नमामि इति श्री ब्रह्माण्ड पुराणे प्रह्लादोक्तं श्री नरसिंह कवचं सम्पूर्णम् हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे भक्ति विघ्न विनाश श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय
हरे कृष्णा अर्जुन राव
हरे
थैंक यू
कृष्णा.
वेरी मच मस्त धन्यवाद तुका नरसिंह प्रणाम सगळ्यांक सांगून आयचे प्रार्थना केलेलें आयचे सेशनाक सगळ्यांक अटेंड केलेलें मस्त मस्त धन्यवाद नेक्स्ट सेशन आसा आमगेले शिक्षाष्टकम सोमारा 7:30 गंटेक तंतु आसाची आमगेले हिज ग्रेस 8:30 गंटेक सॉरी 8:30 गंटेक हिज ग्रेस माधव शरण प्रभु त्यांनी बेंगलोरातून जॉइन जाता आसाची ते मिस कोर नाकाची म्हण सांगता आसा रिक्वेस्ट करता आसा ते सेशन ह्या वार कंटिन्यू जाता आसा येवची वारांतू ऑलमोस्ट 8 वर्स कंप्लीट जाता एप्रिल फर्स्ट वीक म्हणताना सगळ्यांनी अटेंड करका म्हणून अभ्यर्थन करता आसा आजी हांगा आयच्या सेशना विराम दिवया वांचा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada की जय समवेद भक्त वृंद की जय निताय 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 गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल हरे कृष्णा।